We all know that Chelsea have underperformed this season and are currently, as of recording, 11th in the Premier League on their third manager of the campaign. So I'm going to send them around the world to different leagues until they can win one on Football Manager 2023. Let's see how they get on. That's right, we are using the 23.4 update of Football Manager 23, and we're going to send Chelsea around the world. But first, we're going to put a baseline in place and have them in England. Now, in-game, they are predicted to finish 5th, and they're going to be in, obviously, the regular competitions of England, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, and they're in the Champions League. So this is the situation we currently find ourselves in with Graham Potter as the manager because it's the 23.4 unedited database. Let's simulate a season and see how they get on. And we are here. They have finished 3rd, which is surprising because they're currently 11th. So that is how much they are underperforming how the game believes they should do. And quite comfortably 3rd as well. 5 points clear of Arsenal, 10 behind Man City. Liverpool have ran away with the title, only losing once. But Chelsea have finished 3rd and done reasonably well. They've ended up getting to the semi-finals of the Europa League. Sterling and Havertz getting 14 goals in the league. Knocked out the groups against Inter and Bayern. It's quite a tough group, to be fair. And then lost to eventual winners Arsenal in the Europa League. So all in all, they've had a good season under Graham Potter. They've quarterfinals of the FA Cup, 3rd round of the Carabao Cup. Didn't really do very well there. But they've had a good season. They've done well. So that's kind of worrying because I'm going to send them around the world now and see how they get on. And if they've already done quite well in England, this might be a short video. Let me know in the comments where you think they're going to win first. So we're going to go around basically following the reputation of the league. So we'll be off to Spain, Italy, Germany, Brazil, France, Argentina, Netherlands, Portugal. Who knows where we're going to end up, but we're going to go down the order. Let us know in the comments where you think Chelsea are going to win, and we'll see if you're right. Now, the first stop is La Liga, and here are Chelsea in La Liga. We've swapped them out with current 11th place side Mallorca, who we've put in the Premier League, and we'll see how they get on in the Premier League as well, but we're also going to mainly focus on Chelsea in Spain. So the media prediction there says 5th. We'll have a quick look at La Liga in a second and see if that's correct, because that might be a hangover from the Premier League prediction. So they're in the Copa del Rey. They're still in the Champions League. The season preview puts them 3rd, in fact, behind Barcelona and favourites Real Madrid. So that is going to be interesting, whether they can match their 3rd place from the Premier League season as well. Obviously, still Potter in charge. We're in the default 23.4 database. We've not done anything extra on top of that. And here are Mallorca, who I think will quite comfortably finish last in the Premier League. What is the prediction? Yes, 800 to 1. Outsiders, 20th place is the preview of the season. Right, we'll simulate through now with Chelsea in Spain and see if they can win at the first attempt. And they finished 2nd, 5 points behind Barcelona. Real Madrid have had a right stinker and finished in 4th behind Atletico. So, Potter's had a good season in Spain. 5 points the difference between them and Barcelona. Havertz getting 19 goals, level with Lewandowski. Sterling having a good campaign as well with 5 player of the matches. But only really 5 points, so an extra draw and an extra defeat is all that separated Barcelona and Chelsea for the La Liga title. Chelsea are doing surprisingly well, surprisingly quickly. They've got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, losing to Man City, and Barcelona knocked them out of the Copa del Rey in the quarterfinals as well. As we said, Havertz has got 19 goals in the league, another 7 in the Champions League. We'll jump across to the Premier League now, which has been won by Manchester City, and we'll find Mallorca haven't finished last. They finished 19th, 4 points ahead of Crystal Palace, but 5 points from safety. It means Forest have got a bit of a reprieve and have a second season in the Premier League. How do they do elsewhere? Not very well. 3rd round of both cups and 2nd round of the Copa del Rey as well. So they had an extra competition to play in. So they were in 3 domestic cup competitions across 2 nations. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is Chelsea didn't win La Liga. So we're going to ship them off somewhere else now in Europe. I believe it's going to be Italy, and see if Potter can match his 66% win percentage from Spain. It is indeed Italy, and Chelsea are in Serie A, but we've not simulated the season yet. We're going to just make sure they are set up. So Juventus have got the 15-point deduction, which should help Chelsea out. It puts them as favourites, however, which is worrying because, again, this video might end up being quite short. 11-8 favourites for the Serie A title. Torino, who are currently 11th in the Serie A, have been moved over to the Premier League, and they're probably not going to fare particularly well, but we'll have a look at the season preview. They're expected to finish 16th, so they should, hopefully, stave off relegation, but we'll check that out when we've checked out how Chelsea do in Italy, in Serie A. Let's go. They've won. Chelsea have won the Serie A title. We're not having that. That's not... No, I want them to be in Brazil at some point, so we're going again. We'll do this again in a second. I've got an idea. Chelsea have won the Serie A title, though. 11 points clear of Napoli. The Milan sides have both had an absolute mare. Juventus have finished 7th ahead of Inter, despite their 15-point deduction. The top 3 in the average rating are all Chelsea players. This hasn't got... Well, it's gone very well if you're a Chelsea fan. It hasn't gone well if you're expecting them to suffer and go down further in the leagues. Let's see how they've done elsewhere, and then I'll tell you my idea. Let me know in the comments if you can predict it. They finished runners-up in the Coppa Italia and got to the semi-finals of the Champions League. So Havertz, again, getting more than 20 goals across competitions. They lost to Milan in the final of the Coppa Italia. Good, they didn't get a double. That's okay. Semi-final of the Champions League, lost to Bayern, who I believe, if we look here, have beat Liverpool in the final. So, okay, both times they've got to the semi-finals of competitions, they've lost to the team who've won them. But this time it was a Champions League, so that's good for them. How did Torino get on in the Premier League? Let's have a look at that. If I can spell the word league, which I have done, and they've gone 19th. They've only got 28 points. They've been quite disappointing. Javier Aguirre's Torino side been relegated from the Premier League. They'll be in the Championship next season, except they won't, because I've got a great idea. I'm going to use the Sort It Out SI data update to get rid of Graham Potter and put in Frank Lampard, and hopefully that will stop Chelsea from winning Serie A, and I continue with this experiment because I really want to see how they do in Brazil. We're going to go to Germany first, and then Brazil, and then France, and then we'll see how they get on. Potter got 61% win percentage in Italy. We'll see how Lampard gets on. And just as proof before we simulate, here is the data update version. Frank Lampard is now the 3-star reputation manager of Chelsea, so hopefully he will not do as well as Graham Potter, and we'll carry on this video. If this video ends in about 2 minutes' time, you'll know that even Frank can lead Chelsea to the Serie A title. They're still predicted as favourites, as you'd expect, but we'll see how they get on once we've simulated the season. And it has worked. Chelsea have not won the Serie A title, just 2 points behind Milan, Inter in third, level on points. Frank's been sacked or resigned at the end of the season as well, so that is good. They haven't won the Serie A title. They've won the Coppa Italia, though, beating Juventus 2-0 in the final. We can continue the simulation, so don't panic. Juventus' 15-point deduction has dropped them down into 9th. So Lampard left at the end of the season. He resigned at the end of the season. He wasn't sacked after his Coppa Italia win. He got 58% win percentage, which is not bad at all. But he's gone from Chelsea. They will not have him for the second season in Serie A. How did Torino do? They've done even worse. They finished 20th. They have they got 2 more points, but that was not enough to get them 19th again. They've gone down bottom of the Premier League. But Chelsea, importantly, haven't won Serie A. We will keep this train rolling. It's off to Germany next. And here is the Bundesliga's Chelsea, with Frank Lampard in charge once again. We're not making that mistake for a second time. Right, the Bundesliga should be won by Bayern. That is how the preview goes. Chelsea are second, ahead of Dortmund, Leipzig, and everyone else. But we've moved over Köln, who were currently 11th in the Bundesliga. They have gone to the Premier League. We'll check them out as well, make sure we've done it correctly before we simulate the season. Here we go. They are now a Premier League side based in Germany. But that's how this video is going. Right, the preview puts them 17th. So 1 place behind Torino were previewed before the season, and they finished 20th and 19th. So we'll see how Köln get on, and we'll see how Chelsea get on in the Bundesliga, and whether they can topple Bayern, which hopefully they won't. And my hopes were correct. They finished 4th, so Germany is actually tougher than Italy. Bayern won the title by 8 points ahead of Leipzig, Dortmund and Chelsea in quick order right behind them. Lampard has kept his job, however, with only 52% win percentage, but he's kept his job after finishing 4th in the Bundesliga. They weren't in any cup competitions apart from the Champions League, which they got to the quarterfinals of, losing to Liverpool. Havertz once again on the brink of 20 league goals, 19 in his Bundesliga campaign back home in Germany, but they finished 4th, which is good. That's not first. That means we can continue. That means we can go to Brazil next, which is going to be really interesting because that is a completely different type of game over in South America. In the Premier League, Köln finished 16th, so they are the first of the refugee sides, I guess you can call them, who have survived in the Premier League. That is really good. That is promising for German football. So the 11th place side in Germany have survived in the Premier League. They've done reasonably well in the Cups, got to the quarterfinals of the Conference League, got to the semi-finals of the DFB Pokal. So they were in every cup competition they could possibly have been in. The FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, the DFB Pokal, the Conference League. But Chelsea, importantly, haven't won the Bundesliga. We're now going to Brazil. Get your flights booked. This is going to be mad. So through some slightly interesting tactics by myself, we've got Chelsea into Brazil. We've managed to get them down this far. So we're going to see. They are not only in the Brazilian Serie A, I've put them in the regional competition as well. So they're in the Carioca Bet Nacional Campeonato, with this one over here on the left. So they got the full season. They got knocked out of the groups of the Champions League, so they're still in the Champions League. So they're now in the Europa League as well. But this is, I put them in the same group that Botafogo, who are 11th in the Serie A, are. So they're in the same region that Botafogo would have been in Brazil. They are, however, listed as favourites to win the Serie A title in Brazil. So we shall see how that goes. As I mentioned, we've put Botafogo into the Premier League, and they are doing abysmally after 16 games. They're on 9 points. Obviously, the Brazilian season is a calendar year, not a winter season, like in England. But we shall see how Botafogo get on after the end of their season. They're in the FA Cup. They're still in the Copa do Brasil as well, because for some reason that doesn't work all the time when you change nations for clubs. But we're going to see how Chelsea get on in the regional league before the Serie A as well. And hopefully this is going to be really interesting. Let's take a look. And Chelsea have not won a Brazilian title, which is great. This means we're going to France next. So they finished 6th in Serie A. Now, I imagine this is probably going to have something to do with the fact that the registration rules are completely different in Brazil. But Lampard didn't last the season. They've won the Super Cup in the US, and we'll check that out in a second. That's interesting. So, in the Campeonato Carioca Bet Nacional, they've won the league phase. And then in the playoff, they've beaten Vasco da Gama, but then lost to Flamengo in the final after a first leg defeat and a second leg 3-1 victory. But that means that they didn't win that. And then they've gone into the Serie A and not won that. So Lampard's been... Well, he's left the role mid-season after winning the Europa League. So we saw that they got knocked out of the groups of the Champions League and went into the Europa League. So Chelsea have won the Europa League whilst being based in Brazil. That's incredible. They beat Benfica 3-0 in Hungary in the final. So that means they've won the UEFA Super Cup. And then they've also won the Copa Sudamericana in South America. So they've won this. They beat... That's incredible. So Chelsea have won the second tier continental competition in both Europe and South America in the same season. That's incredible. I mean, they haven't won the Brazilian title. They finished a distant 6th. But with all of the cup competitions they've been playing in and winning, that's no real surprise. That is pretty incredible that Gerardo Martino, the Argentinian who's now taken a charge after Lampard's left, has guided them to the Copa Sudamericana and a 6th place finish in the Serie A. Now, that's incredible. We're going to go see how Botafogo got on, because I imagine it's not particularly well given how they did after the first half of the season. I can't see them in the Premier League right now, which suggests they got relegated and they only scored 22 points. 4 victories across the 38 games, relegated into the Championship, which I haven't got loaded, so we can't see how they're doing in the Championship, because I didn't think that far ahead. But that's really incredible that Chelsea have won the Europa League. Through to the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. That's quite impressive, actually, for Botafogo. Chelsea have won the Europa League and the Copa Sudamericana in the same season. That will never have been done before. It will never be done again unless someone's crazy like me and sending European teams across to South America after they've qualified for a European Cup competition. Right, that's not going to happen in the next part of the simulation, because we're sending Chelsea to France, and I've got fears that they might actually win a league title with Lampard in charge. Ligue 1 has now got Chelsea with Lampard in charge, as we've mentioned. They have been replaced in the Premier League by Clermont Foot. We're going to see that Chelsea are the favourites for the French title, with only PSG remotely standing a chance against them. That will be a good head-to-head fight. And we'll go across to the Premier League to see Clermont and how they are going to predicted to finish in the Premier League. If they can match Köln's performance, the German side that we sent over when Chelsea were in the Bundesliga, and not get relegated, that will be impressive. But they are massive outsiders to even survive in the Premier League. We're going to simulate now and see how Chelsea get on in France and whether they can win a league title finally with Frank Lampard in charge. And unfortunately for everyone who isn't a Chelsea fan, Chelsea are French champions. They've beaten PSG by a comfortable margin of 11 points. Quite considerable domination. In fact, they've only lost 4 games. They've drawn another 4. They've won 30. Havertz has got 25, more than Messi. Mbappe's not even on the list of top goal scorers. Sterling, Havertz and Enzo Fernandez, the top average ratings. Mbappe is still at PSG. It's not like he's left. He's just not had a great season. But Chelsea have won the league and title, which is... I mean, I managed to scupper them from winning the Serie A title earlier in the video, but they've done the double in France as well. They've won the Coupe de France. There's not really much else I can do to stop them from winning and carry on this train and get more leagues. But we've got down as far as France. Technically, Italy, not care about that. Brazil was really interesting. That was the main one I wanted to get down to, if I'm honest. Clement Foot, have they survived the Premier League? No, they've finished in 20th. And I don't think they're going to have done particularly well if we have a look. 12 points. Now, they've only won 2 games. That's not very good. That's not very good at all. 9 goals for their top goal scorer. Knocked out the 3rd round by Blackburn of the FA Cup. And the 2nd round of the Carabao Cup by Bournemouth. But Chelsea are French double winners. They've toppled PSG. They've won the league. They've won the cup. And that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, check out this one. And I'll see you next time.